Both Matt and Rich are kind of what we in the comedians circle call comedians, in that they're the people that funny people watch and find funny.
It's like a secret. It's like a little gem, hidden gem.
There's something visionary about it. There's something unique. Snuffbox doesn't seem to be derivative of anything.
If you like sort of dark humor and watching people die, then yeah, I think you're gonna like this show.
I mean, it is one of the most mean-spirited comedies I think ever made.
An amazingly great and dark and disturbing and hilarious show.
Do you like the dickhole being knocked into comedy dirt? And who's gonna say no to that?
If you are a fan of like Spaced, Edgar Wright, Richard Ayoade, Dark Place, Mighty Boosh, Peter Serafinowicz, you owe it to yourself to take a look at Snuffbox, because they're all in the same group, and if you like that, you're gonna love this, because it's really special.
If you haven't seen Snuffbox, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, you're an asshole.
How did we meet? We met at the Boosh, right?
Right.
You were Dixon Bainbridge, and you were known for kicking me in the nuts.
I met them both a long time ago. Matt had been to art school and I'd been to art school, and we had a mutual friend who said, "Oh, you'd love each other. You both got really weird senses of humour, and you're both painters, but you both like music." And so we used to meet up in London and get quite drunk. This was years ago, and the first time I met Matt Berry, he was really thin and looked like Michael Hutchins, and was very strange, looked like he was from the 60s. He was like some weird out of time character, but he was really good. And then I think when we started doing Helen Chickens, we got him down. He was already doing a character called Jeffrey Porksmith, like a Doctor Who time traveller. We got him down, and he used to do songs there. The thing I remember most is he had a wig of his own hair, and he used to take that off and have exactly the same hair underneath. And I just thought, yeah, he's good. This guy is going to be brilliant. And his booming voice. Rich, me and Julian met about 20 years ago, no, 15 years ago, on a sketch show called Unnatural Acts. And I remember the first thing I ever said to Rich was, "Have you met my wife?" And I broke off a little bit of a polystyrene cup and said, "This is my wife, have you met her?" And he immediately took it and started kissing it. And I went, "What are you doing?" And I just thought, I'm going to be friends with this person for a long time. So it was a good little movement, you know. Matt was in Garth Marenghi, I was in Garth Marenghi, Julian was in Garth Marenghi. Everyone was just in everyone else's shows, and it was quite cool. There was a sort of couple of years there where it was good, where it felt like all this weird stuff was getting through, you know.
I think that if you go back to arguably, you know, like let's say late 90s, League of Gentlemen, Alan Partridge, you know, that kind of thing, there's this great, almost class, if you will, of British comedy talent that's comparable, I think, to what was happening here in the 70s when you had SNL and Cheech and Chong and Steve Martin, all these great comedic talents that just burst onto the scene at the same time, and then they kind of knew each other, and they, you know, like, you know, you would see those people on SNL or, you know, National Lampoon. There was a lot of crossover, obviously, between those groups, and that's something that you see happening with a lot of BBC comedy.
Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, that was like the beginning of it. People were sending me clips, YouTube clips of it, because I co-created a show in the late 90s called Heat, Vision and Jack, which was kind of in the same like headspace as that. It was like 80s action sci-fi TV show, Knight Rider, Incredible Hulk, $6 Million Man, all meshed up into one. And then when people was like, "Hey, this is the Heat, Vision and Jack, but in the UK," and I was just like, wow. Not only did they do it and got to do the series, they did it so much better than we ever did it. And it was like really, really funny. Especially like, of course I fell in love with Matt. You know, how could you not? Anything he was connected to. And that led me to the Mighty Boosh, which I saw, oh, there's Richard Ayoade and Fulcher, who I actually knew from the improv scene here in Los Angeles.
Well, Rich Fulcher and I worked together on a show called Crossballs, and I think I met him through that or earlier than that.
on the party circuit here in Los Angeles. For a while there, you couldn't really throw a party without inviting Rich Fulcher, or at least without having him show up.
He's probably one of the most offbeat, strangest, funniest, weirdest people you'd ever meet.
I remember being at festivals with Rich performing and all the comics going to see Rich's show after they finished their own show. Matt, you know, when he first appeared on Garth Marenghi, it was like this, who the hell is this guy?
And then, yeah, they were in our show. They were in the bush and they did a lot of scenes together. Matt was Rich's boss. And the head of BBC Three saw something in their sort of double act and their chemistry, Stuart Murphy, and he commissioned Snuffbox.
We said, why don't we do something? And we had pitched a lot of different kinds of shows.
Yeah.
Ghost detective shows.
Well, we kind of knew what we didn't want to do rather than what we did, didn't we, really?
Yeah.
I think there is an element of being in the right place at the right time, of having the right people in positions of power to allow you to do stuff. I think when we made our sitcoms based, it was just for you know, it wasn't just the fact we had a good idea. I think that we were fortuitous in that we had good people behind the scenes, and I think I'm sure that's the same for Matt and Rich. You have to take risks on new things.
That was right when Little Britain went off to BBC One. We were on
the biggest thing in the country.
Yeah, so it just BBC Three at that time was designed alternative shows would move up to 2 or 1, and so that left a void at BBC Three, and they just immediately said, why don't you guys do a sketch show?
Well,
we go,
they said if you want to do something, it has to be a sketch show or nothing.
We were
which was the thing that we didn't have any interest in.
So we kind of did the craziest thing. You know, because Matt had this idea about like, let's be walking and talking and hanging. And I go, what about bringing the sketches around? And like we had this, and we started writing it. We submitted like half a pilot.
Yeah.
And they go, yeah, that's great. Let's do it.
And by do it, they meant let's do the whole series.
Yeah, that never happens anymore. It just gave us...
Well, it'll never happen to us again.
A man's got to watch his mouth these days. The ladies don't like the effing and a jeffing that you're so fond of.
The what?
Cursing.
Well, what about that girl you took me to see in Soho? I mean, all you did was F and Jeff.
That was different.
Why?
She was a prostitute.
What was great about this is I think you wouldn't normally get these two separate ideas, but when we combined them all, it made for kind of a weird, you know, collusion.
There's something quite interesting about the American English thing. We always like that in the bush. The fact that he was very shouty and high energy and definitely American, and we were quite mumbly and low key in English. It was a good contrast. But I think Matt and Rich's thing's really good as well. They have a very good contrast.
Lady, are you okay? What kind of an asshole would do something like this?
This one. Get up. You know what I want. Hand me those diaries.
I first saw Snuffbox. One of the things that was the first time I'd ever seen Rich Fulcher. It was before I saw Mighty Boosh. So I remember being like, oh wow, there's an American guy in there. It kind of, that made it different.
Kill an American. Kill Rich. Kill American with poison darts.
What I love about Snuffbox is this narrative element that goes through, which I'm sure for some people is not a selling point. But for me, I love the idea of identifying those two guys. They are such characters as people,
you prefer the macro.
to identify them as themselves.
It feels very Python-esque in a way, in terms of the way the segments are linked together and how things go on tangents. And it's certainly more dark and twisted, I think.
The one thing that you could look at is to say that Python they would start with sort of a theme, and then there would be a sort of a through line that would go, you know, somewhat of a storyline, or they would wander from one thing to another. And I think Rich and Matt do that in Snuffbox. They introduce themselves, as these hangmen, but then it just sort of veers off into, you know, another room, or, you know, or into the past, or what happens. And so in that sense, I think it compares structurally to Python.
I love it. Who the hell are you?
We wanted to script this whole show like a normal show, whereas some people would go, you've got to do like 10 sketches and then you cut out 4 that don't work.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to make it a complete story.
They're all linked, all the sketches.
Yeah.
I mean, that didn't have to be, you know, completely linked. Some aren't, but like, We wanted to be a bit more, you know, a bit more to it than just a bunch of standalone sketches.
Yeah.
Because you know, I don't think any of us, you know, were interested in that.
Can I freshen anyone's drinks? Sure, bro. I'll have a vodka and coffee. Hold the salt.
Whiskey!
Once we threw it in the mix like this, it became its own thing, and we started to shape it in the context of the show. So we had, you know, all the index cards, and we were playing around what worked here, because my background is like improv, and there's a, you know, I don't want to get boring, but there's a long form thing called a herald.
Another royalty check for my mom's estate. Thanks, Mom. She's dead, you know.
A royalty check, you say? So you must be in money.
Where you start out with one thing and then it comes around.
So who the hell was your mother? Ricky from the office reckoned she was some kind of famous singer. Yet you always insist on keeping Mum. I've got it. Joan Rivers. You even look like her.
Listen, I'm not telling you. Besides, she's not even a fucking singer, goddammit.
It forms like a diamond. You go off and then you come back.
Mama Cass!
So that's what I thought, you know, would be great about this show.
Matt, wait up. Hey, Matt, sorry I'm late. Are we early?
It came from watching things like The Sweeney. The Sweeney is a 1970s edgy cop show that we had, where all of the plot kind of had to be done and dusted within, like, you know, a minute of the show. And it was always done with them walking like down like a corridor. And they're going, sorry, we got to do this, that and the other. And go, yep, and make sure that we do this. So you get all this, you know, barraging of sort of information as they're walking down the corridor. Sets up the show. And I always thought that was really nice, you know, because it always, you know, made you sort of interested in what was about to happen.
He's had to give half his money away to the bumpy lady that he doesn't even know in order to buy little people's clothes.
Opening the door and, you know, either, you know, whatever situation would come out, we actually initially, we played around with the idea of sketches happening when we opened a particular door, but
But that isn't as interesting as just having the show start with you kind of walking down a corridor, opening the corridor. Might be someone being hanged, could be a golf course.
I'm Rich, British Open Commentary, coming to you in 5, 4, 3.
It was a fortunate, you know, collision of two very, very talented guys being allowed to do what they do. It should happen more. It doesn't, sadly.
The first sketch I saw was a Mastermind sketch, and I love comedy which is like question and answer.
Which American president was assassinated in Dallas, Texas?
Woodrow Wilson.
Incorrect.
I like that. So I think they asked Rich, I think his special subject was medieval architecture, or it was architecture of something.
Which part of the post-Roman Ripon Cathedral still survives?
The water.
Incorrect.
The silver cowboy boots.
I found about some silver cowboy boots. I could be wrong. It may be the shop across the street thinking about it.
I can only really answer questions relating to items I have on order or here in the shop.
I love it that the repetition doesn't feel repetitious. You look forward to it.
But you've obviously done your best with the knowledge you have.
Don't mention it. We got there in the end. Dozy bastard.
It's almost like how Ren and Stimpy would use the same animation to introduce something.
If you feel let down, you're more than welcome to try somewhere else for your silver cowboy boots.
I don't want to look elsewhere. I just want the silver cowboy boots. Hell's teeth, man!
Slam your fist down in front of me one more time and see what happens, wee man.
It was like, oh my God, I know how this is gonna end, and I can't wait. It's really, really funny.
Oh! Fucking... Oh! Oh!
One of my favorite sketches, I have to say, is I think Matt's having some kind of blind date in a restaurant.
Hey, don't I know you from somewhere?
I don't think so, no.
You play organized softball, don't you?
No.
Paintball.
Not me.
Kickboxing.
No.
I swear I know you from... I got it! You raped me! That's right, this guy raped me!
I think the the sketches that make me laugh out loud the most are Matt Berry's boyfriend sketches.
My lady is in distress, and I'm here to rescue her.
Thanks. They say chivalry's dead, but I think you're making a pretty strong case for its revival.
Well, I'm always ready to help a beautiful lady. I help the ugly ones as well, but I definitely say you're in the former camp. Where am I taking this?
Well, it's only a few streets away. I'm moving in with my boyfriend,
Fuck
Ian.
you.
It's like what my boyfriend was saying the other day.
Fuck you.
I've got to get Scruffy back to my boyfriend, and then fuck you.
It feels like we need to see an ending to that character. We were robbed of a denouement.
Hello. A friend of yours, I presume?
My fiancé.
Fuck you!
Does he ever find love? Does he ever find love?
The Christopher Lee porno, where Matt Berry is playing Christopher Lee and Rich is playing that sleazy California porn director.
Okay, Slutmutt, the time for bullshit has passed. Because I've heard you like it.
Hey, cut! Whoa!
Rapper with a Baby is like another classic.
I'm a rapper with a baby, I got a little bitty motherfucking baby.
The music is so like no other comedy show I've ever seen.
The Empty Room segment where they're doing the Old Grey Whistle Test parody, I thought that was amazing, and I of course I knew also what they were parodying, the Edgar Winter Group performing Frankenstein on that show in, I guess, '74. Quite unique. I mean, Matt's talents as a musician are that is a tasty element, I think, to bring into a show like that, and it's something that they were doing on the Boosh as well. But it's just a very cool element, I think, to bring into comedy when you've got a musician who's that talented that can spark that kind of thing. And so when you have the Empty Room or the guitar lesson sketch.
Any song that gets anywhere near the top 20 features the D major chord. As you can see, all of my fingers are on a string.
Matt's deaf brother is so funny when they're on like the music show.
Now, this increasingly popular debut album was recorded in LA, and as you were telling me earlier, it's already become a bestseller in France and Spain.
France and Spain!
The first time he sings is probably one of the funniest moments I've ever seen, ever.
And by the way, the complete unsung hero in that running bit, Richard Ayoade, so brilliant and quiet, but just stealth funny.
You see, that kind of stuff only they could get away with. Because I think there's something about the two of them which is fundamentally cuddly. They've both got round faces as well. They say comedy is we like people with round faces because it kind of reminds us of our mothers, and it's something kind of homely and sweet about it. So they get away with some of the darkest material ever written, I think.
Now, Mr. Rich, you said you wanted to dash off to eat a pie. Could I not tempt you with one of mine?
I think I'll try one of yours if that's cool.
Get stuck in.
You would push it a little bit.
The whole kind of nudity thing was for a few reasons. One of them was when I was 15, if there would have been a show that had, some nudity, a comedy show where I could guarantee there's going to be some nudity every single week,
right,
I'd have been into that.
How about some Italian?
Wow, can I have olive oil on that?
Well, Monty Python had a little bit of nudity.
And I was into that. Yeah. So, just made perfect sense.
Benny Hill occasionally. Well, in the U.S., they know Benny Hill probably better than you do. That they always occasionally had a woman reveal her breastises.
Well, they're scantily clad, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the other reason?
Just stupid, kind of childish. Can we kind of get away with it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was convinced that they just go, what the hell is that? And just cut it.
But you throw enough stuff out there, you figure you throw 10 things out there that are kind of risque, maybe 8 will come back.
Or else you bang something in which will put them off the scent. So for instance, if there's like a gratuitous shot of some breasts, and then, but kind of, a minute
Subtle.
before that, there was a cunt, then they're still worrying about the C word, so the tits don't look like anything.
Yeah, we had a couple of cunts in there, but the ones that we really wanted,
Yeah.
which is the old woman pointing
That's the cunt.
to the guys in the lineup. That was the one we really wanted.
Yeah.
That got in.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Apologies for being late. I suggest we crack on. Could you run the first clip, please, Felix?
We had a viewing before it aired, and we invited a lot of, friends of ours, and they all loved it, but, we just thought maybe they were being nice.
They did a family and friends screening at the BAFTA just before it came. It was aired on TV. They showed the first 2 episodes. And so it was great to see it on the big screen. And it was just one of those amazing nights where everybody is just blown away by it, because it's ridiculous.
Our production company was actually more like, you're swearing too much. And then the BBC would look at it and they go, oh, that's fine.
Can't stop, baby. It's too fucking good.
Ed, you're the devil and namaste. We gotta stop.
Hey, why don't we let him watch?
Yeah, there was a fair bit of, opinion after it went out. wasn't
Yeah. Once it went out, it's like, whoa, what did you guys do?
They all kind of ran away from it.
Well, I've never seen anything like that.
Not good.
That's one of the things I love about Matt. He won't explain himself. And Rich is the strangest, most fucked up person I've ever met in my entire life. Rich is the weirdest man ever. And so between the pair of them, it was always going to go wrong. Massively wrong. I loved it. I thought it was a great show.
That's the ticket? Oh, yes. Nearly at the station?
Remember calling in about how many people watched, and it just kept going down and down. I think we started out with maybe
6, and then by episode 6, I think it was 2.
I had it taped. That was counted as 1.
Well, what we were going to do, in fact, because there was only like a handful of people watching it, we weren't going to bother airing it at all and just send them the videotapes.
Yeah.
Individually, the people, the
To
5
their
people.
door.
Yeah, that were.
Here you go.
That were watching the show.
Don't bother turning it on.
It's not on.
Yeah, forget
it's
it.
in your letterbox.
Yeah.
People were furious. People were up kicking TV screens through, marching the streets. Rich got raped quite badly. Matt Berry's been banished from most of London. He's only allowed in East London, really. He's not allowed in North London anymore.
Some people like dark humor and some people don't. If you're watching 2 straight hours of comedy on CBS, maybe you're not a person who likes a show about a hangman and his assistant who occasionally, throughout their other adventures during the day, has to walk into a room and hang a guy from time to time. And maybe sometimes they forget the hood and there's a danger of eyes popping out. And that's just a reality of this guy's life. Some people like that and some people don't. I do.
You have to speak up, fella. I can't hear you with that white hood on.
I've used both at work, but to be honest, if push came to shove, I'd never use the mat. Not only do they look off...
There were 3 sketch shows on BBC 3, and ours was the one that didn't get commissioned.
I didn't even think it would air, so it was no surprise that it didn't get kind of commissioned. But
I was surprised.
Probably because, a lot of great shows don't go beyond 1 season. Garth Marenghi's Dark Place didn't, and this one, I think, it's probably just because it's too good for the majority of the people that watch television.
I can't be in love if it's plastic. To live on my own just seems tragic.
I couldn't give a fuck after that because
Yeah.
it's just like, you don't hear anything.
We thought there was going to be we were waiting initially, let's get the team in place again.
And they kept saying to us that they couldn't do any adverts because of all the bad language. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, it aired at 11 at night, which was late.
But they couldn't. I always found that very funny though, that they couldn't find anything in there to advertise the show with because it was
Come
all.
on,
It was
could
all
have done a lot.
It was all, bad language.
They could have done nipple tweets.
Yeah, it wasn't all swearing, was it?
Fuck shit. Horse piss.
Son of a 2-ball bitch. fuck? Shit. Horse piss. Son of a two-ball bitch. Motherfucker.
And I knew when it was only given one showing on BBC Three that this is the kind of thing, shows like that come and go, the BBC are actually very proud of them. Because they'll say, oh no, it's too dark. No way we can have a second series. No. And secretly they go, it's great though, wasn't it? It was fantastic.
Certainly, Snuffbox could be called offensive. I wouldn't show it to my mother and expect that she would really enjoy it. And I think along those lines, I mean, it was meant to be a cult comedy made for late night sensibilities, and obviously is very successful in that way.
And I guess I drank half a pint that was still fermenting. Next thing I know, I'm seeing bright lights and it's stinging like shit.
Shows like this tend to succeed even if it's like a long game, you know, even if it takes a while, because word of mouth spreads, popularity increases, people get to know it on the internet.
Everybody has one of these friends that has a closet full of tapes, and this is how I learn. You know, when you're over his house and you get stoned and he's like, oh, you gotta see this tape. I got this tape. And it's usually somebody shitting on something or that genre. But this one, he's like, and then sometimes it's British television.
When the DVD came out, it got reviewed. Yeah.
You do other things, and people think, you know, but what's this thing that they did? It wasn't from the show. The show did fuck all.
So many people have discovered Snuffbox via YouTube, but they don't know what the broader context is, or where it's from. I mean, if you look at the information that's on the clip about the rapper with the baby, it doesn't tell you who it is or what it just, and so people don't know what that is. They know it as a viral video clip and they think it's hilarious, but there's no context for it.
And people would actually act out a lot of the scenes. There'd be some fans that would do that, the fuck song. Fuck, shit, horse piss. They would act out the whole thing.
Have they done that?
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
It's one of those great, classic, beloved shows where it doesn't necessarily reach millions and millions of people, but the people that do see it, it means more to them than 1,000 episodes of some trite mainstream sitcom.
I think it's like one of those unknown gems that people will discover, because they have a lot of fans out here in the world.
I think a modern-day American audience might react to it in the same way Rich Fulcher says, I think, somewhere in the series, I don't know if I have to puke or piss, but I've got to piss.
Snuffbox, the way the narrative works in each episode, it's sort of like the equivalent of like bands that make great albums. And when you pull the songs out, now each individual song might be great and might be really, really, really funny, but it's intended to be listened to as an album.
It is a weird show, but in a way that's a unique selling point. It's the weirdest show, one of the weirdest shows I've ever seen, which is why I like it. But you know, when you get a really weird album and you like it, you feel good about that because you feel like it's not for everyone and it's like your own personal thing. It's not a lower low, is it? Although I know Matt and me both have a fondness for a lower low. We want to remake it.
One of the things I like, when you see something that's completely from the minds of its creators, and it feels like they don't have to hold back, and they're doing something it's like, well, this is funny to us, and if it's funny to us, it might be funny to some other people. There's a lot of that in this show, but then there's also things that are like, maybe this won't even be funny to us, but let's see what it is, and they'll just try something, and it's just bizarre, and there's a real thrill in that.
This show, I think, rewards people who pay attention to television. You know what I mean? There are a lot of shows on the air, certainly here in America. I don't know what's going on in England at all. But here in America, there are a lot of shows that I think are sort of designed to have on in the background while you're folding laundry or helping your kids with homework or something like that. And you don't have to really follow it. But a lot of people don't like to watch television that way. A lot of us like to lock in, pay attention, shut out the other people in our lives, quiet, I'm watching television, and really engage in what you're watching. And this is the type of show that I think really rewards that, because you have to really watch to keep up with what's happening on this show, because the reality is shifting at all times and constant surprises are being thrown at you.
People are crying out for good comedy, for for interesting and sort of challenging stuff, because so much of what we're given in the mainstream is just bland. It's just kind of, it's made to appeal on a mass level, and those things never really have any genuine heart, you know, because everything's just so spread out. The stuff that really appeals to people is much more specific and much more focused, and I think, you know, Snuffbox is definitely in that tradition. It's like, it's just uncompromising. It's very, very funny. It's the same as Python or any of the great comedies that, you know, that just had its own voice and refused to capitulate to what the mainstream thought it should be.
I don't think a show like Snuffbox would get greenlit here. I mean, maybe on like Adult Swim or something like that, where the audience is more niche, but it's certainly not the kind of thing I think that would ever be on network here, which is too bad, because I think that people need to have their reality warped.
Hopefully one day what I'd really like to do is do something with all of them, with Richard Ayoade, Matt Holness, Matt Berry, Fulcher, me, Julian, Alice Lowe, all of us do one big show. It'd be amazing, or a film. It'd be amazing. That would be it'd be epic.
I like the idea of doing something where, you know, there was a sense to them all, I guess.
A thrust, if you will.
Link. Is that all right? Wicked.